Today I decided to, well, I've been needing to kind of play a game with randoms against a team. That's something I've been wanting to do because I talk a lot about like my game knowledge, and I think that it's something that you regularly have to do to make sure you understand the game. Is go into a game where you have no buddies. You don't know, like I didn't look at the skill of these players or anything, and just see how the game develops, see how you communicate with each other, chat, ping, stuff like that. So it's something that myself, I always want to go and see how normal games outside of because I'm pretty sheltered when it comes to playing like team games. I'm always playing with like the same 3-4 guys, so playing with a whole bunch of public people that I've never played for before puts me outside of my comfort zone. But me being having a lot of experience in this game, I feel like I can hopefully still portray some of my experience to other games and other players in these games. So I'm just gonna go over this replay. I hopped in this game because Falo was streaming, and I was like, why not just play against him? And I just wanted to see if being one good player is good enough versus your team. Which on this map, I think one good player can really dominate because it's only one constant front. Like you're never pushing in Charlie and stuff like that. Um, so this is from I was playing red, which that's pretty much my comfort zone. I love playing red, and I feel I'm playing like my rank deck or something, but I feel really comfortable playing red, and especially I used to do a lot of these low point tactical games, so I know how they work out, and I know how what's important and what's really not important. So playing these games, kind of I used to do this a lot. Um, so pretty much this is I'm just looking at their point of view because I know what I did, and I just want to see what they did versus what I did. So they do a pretty much this is like a normal this is you keep in mind this is a destruction, so it's not conquest, and this will go on to being me thinking that conquest players are better than destruction players just solely based on how good you can maintain a static line in destruction and how good you can maintain a push in conquest. So this is pretty much like there's this guy playing Blue Dragons has multiple squads of HEGM things, which I guess is cool. Two-man squad of HEGMs don't really work, but I pretty much kill his HEGMs, and then I realize he has no tanks, so I eventually just start pushing, and I see this is good to see that that there's infantry there, so I can deal with that later. Took a couple hits on the B1, doesn't really matter. The GRU eventually somewhat deal with these. They die though, but whatever. Not gonna go over everything. Just kind of looking. They don't do anything over here. My other teammate deploys his whole force here, which I tell them, that's a mistake. This isn't really a zone of contestment, which I kind of feel bad for him because there's no explanation of how the maps play in a tutorial, and that'd be something that really matters because you have people that do this. They don't really know what they're doing. They don't really know how the map plays and how it works. It should be obvious to us because we've played games, but to newer people, which I'm guessing this person is, it doesn't really say that this is the zone you should contest for. There should be a tutorial about each map, or just like a fucking imager file or something along those lines, to where these zones like purple for contestment, these are what's contested, and the ones you shouldn't be contesting. So Charlie, Golf, or maybe you can highlight these as contested zones as well. But that's just something that he doesn't know. So I have to tell him, you have to move this stuff and you have to move it here. This protects my flank, so it leaves me not open to flank from this guy. This guy doesn't do anything. This guy's unit stays here the whole game. He doesn't push. He doesn't do anything, and that's just how destruction works. He doesn't even have it capped. We have it capped because it's a 4-point zone. It's better than these. And my other teammate, buys a tongue and a TDU or whatever, which is a little bit over exaggerated, but it's whatever. At least he's doing what he's supposed to do. So here, I don't know. I clear out whatever's left of this because I know there's no vehicles here anymore, and then the points are quite low. So me doing this, having point for point units, I'm pretty far ahead because then we're making good income, and I'm pretty well off for myself. I get some fire support, or he gives me some fire support, and my tanks are healthy because I got a cargo, etc. He comes in, tries to kill something. I bought a Bertino because I know I need to push in here. So I push. This guy helps me out with some infantry and a K-29, which is good. And then, unfortunately, my teammate runs some infantry and stuff across there. Doesn't really support it or anything. And then I Bertino here again. So that kind of helps me in a whole bunch of different, areas. That, supporting me and then causing, like, this is pretty important as well. I wouldn't have been able to do what I did, as in, like, push this side, if he didn't constantly do this. This is a good way to, it's kind of a dummy magnet. Like, this part of the map doesn't really influence anything, it's just someone to pour points into. So the enemy team sees this as a big threat, because they're on their side of the river, so that's kind of scary for them. So what they're going to do is they're just going to pour their points into here and try to get them out, which to me is fine, because I get to do the main push. It's kind of like a diversionary tactic, I have this zone here. I pretty much have control over it. I have, a stable force. We have the town, which is full of infantry. So now my teammate, I didn't really tell him to do it, but he does it on his own, and he buys a CV because I did ask for a CV, because I wanted to save my money for a push. And this push was going to go this way. I already have a Bertino, so I just need the cargo for that, and decent A for the mid, and then I can start working on my push to the left, which is the main objective here, is just to get on this side. So he does that, which is great for me. It applies pressure. This guy buys a deagle, don't know what for. Mismicroed it, something. I didn't kill it, but he buys an IL-1-2, a MiG. The MiG kills a mortar, which is kind of useless. Gets the CV in there. Don't know what this guy's doing. It's a bad play though. But I can't really. I'm focusing on other things, so I can't really tell him that, hey, you shouldn't do that. You should not do that, etc. So I'm building for my force here. I have my Bertino ready to go. It's fully loaded, and then I start my push. So the first mistake is the enemy buys this guy buys a bomber, which is pretty ineffective because as you can see here, a bomber is kind of a dummy magnet. Like, you should be like really thinking about actual units, because a bomber is like, it's out for 15 seconds, and if it doesn't hit, you've wasted 120 points here, or 125, I don't know. So you really have to think, would I rather have 2 tanks or 1 good tank versus something like, say, if this hits, right, then if he hits, he kills B tier 90 and some infantry, which is great for him. There's no push anymore. But if he misses, he loses. He pretty much is gonna lose a sector, right? Pretty much. So he bombs nothing. I split because I see the bomber, and the way he calls it out is it's a direct this way, and then it comes this way. But that gives me time to reverse back out, split, get the B1 off the fucking bridge. The B1 was here whenever I saw the plane. I think I killed it. I did kill the plane. So how bad? That's really bad for him. So then I'm just like, okay, free. So I, again, unload, just obvious, being able to fire support the infantry down, shoot a couple rounds with a Bertino, doesn't really matter, and then I'm just free reign. I'm free to do whatever the fuck I want here. The fucking tongue one-shots the Deagle, which is fantastic. Solves a big issue. He's had that Deagle anyway. So then the rest of the game is just me preparing myself for the inevitable this way push. And then getting these tanks here is just obvious the way this map works. So I guess I can just speed through the rest of this game. Obvious things. Buy a K-52. One of my teammates leave. I buy the K-52 just to scout around, which in theory, yeah, would have been pretty good. But I didn't want it to get seen, and it got seen. So he buys a dap, and I just run it away because it's not even worth. I totally forgot about it for most of the game anyway. But anyways, this guy keeps putting stuff into here. I eventually buy some more units for him. These Motostrokey. His stuff dies. So then it's just me waiting for a while for points. I did buy a BU. I bought 2 BUs actually. I sent one here and the other one here, and then I Bertino this to push to gain some pressure into here. But they bought a lot of static stuff, a lot of stuff that doesn't even matter. So I started probing. I'm alone now. Both my other teammate DC'd and the other one's left. But being alone on this map is pretty much just a huge 1v1. Like, to me, there's not much to micro, right? There's like mortars, a book, and the other stuff they gave me, which is like some infantry here, and I put that in the position where I want it. Everything else was already mine anyway, so. Ah, that was great bombs. Yeah, and that's about it. They get the point score limit, but yeah, that kind of opens some people's eyes on how one player can really influence a game, especially on the destruction. On conquest you can have one good player and like 2 bad players, and the other team it can be just 3 mediocre players. And on conquest that really matters. The one good player really has to do something really well. And on destruction it's just almost autopilot mode for me, I guess. Other people can do it. I think there's a big difference in player skill and how maps are played, and just how everything's played between conquest and destruction. And I think it's kind of detrimental to the game on how conquest and destruction both play out. They're both totally different game modes, and they're almost like you're playing a totally different game. Because as you can see, I just played that game like a conquest game, pretty much. I took the zones that needed to be taken because those are the same zones that are important in conquest games. And I guess you could say, well, you're 10 times better than them anyway, but it's still like, if you play destruction like you would play conquest, you're gonna win the game. That's just how, like, destruction people are really they see the same games, right? They see stale games. They base their defenses on HGMs, and then they base their defenses on heavy artillery, mortars, stuff like that. So if you just play most games like a conquest game, you're just going to win anyway, as shown there. But I guess that's not a really great example because I'm using me as the variable or whatever. So it'd be interesting to put some mediocre conquest players versus some mediocre destruction players and tell them to play a conquest game. Maybe the conquest player is going to win, and then you tell them to play a destruction game, and I still would put my money on the conquest players. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe maybe it's just totally wrong. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little clip of video, kind of me explaining things a little bit, and hopefully you guys got something out of it. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next.